Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be talking to you about the Application Approval Workflow Solution Accelerator for System Center 2012. My name is Pete Zerger. I'm a Managing Principal Consultant for Infront Consulting Group, Microsoft MVP in the System Center Cloud and Data Center Management space, and founder and blogger over at SystemCenterCentral.com. So, the App Approval Workflow Solution Accelerator was developed to address the current reality of Configuration Manager 2012 application approval workflow or lack thereof. Today, if you request an application through the Configuration Manager application catalog on a self-service basis, if that application requires approval, the Configuration Manager administrator is the approver in the Configuration Manager admin console. And as nice as that may be, in an enterprise where we have distribution of roles throughout our organization and more complex approval requirements often, that leaves us lacking in terms of our flexibility for developing tiered or more flexible approval workflow algorithms. So with the App Approval Workflow Solution Accelerator, or AAW as I'll call it, when a user requests an application through the Config Manager 2012 application catalog that requires approval, the approval workflow solution will transform that request in Configuration Manager into a Service Manager service request, a specialized service request we call an application request, allowing for the application of flexible approval workflows and additional activities as our organization requires. So let's just visualize the solution components here briefly and walk through that process to lock the fundamentals in your mind. So we've already talked about Configuration Manager 2012 as our engine for delivering applications to users and desktops, and the home of the application catalog, our self-service interface for selecting applications, and juxtapose with Service Manager, which is the home of our workflow engine. That's our service desk solution, our CMDB, the source of our ITIL process, as implemented in our environment. System Center 2012 Orchestrator, if you're not familiar, is the runbook automation component of the System Center family, and in this case is the middleman with automation that allows us to take those requests in Configuration Manager and transform those into specialized service request in Service Manager, where we can apply approval workflows that are more sophisticated than what would be possible than that one-person approval workflow that we see in Configuration Manager natively. So let's say Sally, self-service user, requests approval for an application in the Configuration Manager catalog. With Configuration Manager, that request is going to be logged by Configuration Manager, and a pending approval basically lit up in the console for the Configuration Manager administrator to approve. Now with AAW in place, there are runbooks in Orchestrator, and these runbooks, incidentally, come as part of the solution, as do the Service Manager components. So there's very little for us to do in terms of required configuration. But in any case, so our self-service user makes that request. It lights up in Configuration Manager as a pending request. Orchestrator is going to catch that request and transform it into an application request in Service Manager, and an approval activity is going to be raised to the line manager of our self-service user. The line manager is the manager of that user as defined in Active Directory. Now, you don't have to use that as your approval mechanism. You have absolute flexibility to customize that to the capabilities of Service Manager. But by default, if you've documented your organizational structure within Active Directory, and that's been synchronized into Service Manager CMDB with the native System Center connector for Config Manager, you already know who that self-service user's manager is, and the AAW will facilitate raising that request to the line manager for approval. Once that approval is made, Orchestrator is going to take that approval and transform it into an approval that configuration manager understands. So in reality, what's going to happen there is a little WMI behind the scenes to mark that request as approved. The user is going to be notified of the approval through the software center present on any agent-managed computer, any computer with the configuration manager client by default. So the little bubble comes up in the system tray telling the user their request has been approved and their software will be installed soon. And it's going to be installed in accordance to their maintenance window, essentially. But let's have a look at the AAW in action in a live environment. So I am currently logged into the Contoso domain. I am logged in as a user named Ed Meadows. So if I do a quick who am I here, you'll see I am Contoso Ed. Also incidentally indicated if you look in the upper right hand corner of your self-service portal. So Ed is browsing the applications that are available to him in the catalog here, and he decides he would like a third-party web browser. He clicks on the little blue request button in the lower corner of the application portal. You'll see he's prompted to justify his approval. I can put in a reason here. And when we submit this request, we're just going to get a little note that says your request was submitted. And for the moment, that is it. And you'll notice we have the capability to come back here and look at those requests, but nothing we can really do about it, until we get some notification back. So let's have a look at those run books I alluded to in System Center 2012 Orchestrator that do some of this work behind the scenes. So there's a runbook export that comes with the Application Approval Workflow Solution Accelerator. It's going to put a series of runbooks. There are several of them that will be installed in the in Orchestrator. You'll basically import these through the normal process. You'll notice here that we have an application request subfolder, an incoming and an outgoing folder. So this incoming folder contains a runbook that's going to actually capture that pending request from Configuration Manager and create the application request, that specialized service request over in Service Manager. And using the default logic in that approval workflow, Ed's line manager, Haven Ford, is going to see a line manager approval activity in their My Activities area of the Service Manager self-service portal. So Haven will get a notice that Ed has requested this application and is seeking approval. So I'll just move over to the portal where you can see I'm logged in as Haven Ford currently. And I'm on the home page of the portal. You'll notice here we have areas for searching help articles, my requests, and most importantly in this case, my activities. This is where a manager who's been tasked with approving a request is going to see their line manager review activity. And here we can see Haven already sees the request that Ed has recently made for the third-party browser through the application catalog of Configuration Manager. So there is my approval activity. I'm going to hit the approval button, put my message in here, and off we go. If you're familiar with Service Manager, you might be asking yourself, Service Manager has the capability to drive request approvals through email using the Exchange connector. I wonder if I could do that with the Application Approval Workflow Solution Accelerator request. And the answer is absolutely yes. Service Manager supports email automation of any class of work item related to with related approval, so no problem there. So now I'm going to switch over here to Orchestrator, and I'm going to go to the outgoing subfolder under application request. Now this is going to take the approval from Service Manager, and it's going to send it into the opposite direction to stamp that pending request in Configuration Manager with an approval. So that is flowing over there right now, and once that approval is marked in Configuration Manager, the next time Ed's Configuration Manager client checks in to see if there are any policy updates, he's going to see that little pop-up I alluded to in the in his system tray down here, courtesy of the Software Center. So why don't we just accelerate that a bit, and I'll just show you how we can go ahead and make that happen a little more quickly. I'm going to go into the control panel on Ed's machine, and I will find the Configuration Manager client. I can go over to the Actions pane here and just kick off the policy evaluation cycle to pull down any policies related to this client, which means Ed will then get his approval a little more quickly than he otherwise might. On a normal basis, your client's going to be checking in once an hour with Config Manager. So you can see now, thanks to that little sleight of hand, we got the application approval for Ed already. I'm just going to refresh the browser here and see what we see, and you'll notice here my status is now approved. If I look at my system tray, there is the Software Center telling me that I have an approved request ready to install. I'm going to go ahead and hit the button and make that happen. So now my application is installing. And under normal circumstances, if I weren't to rush that process in any way, assuming we get that approval from the line manager, within a reasonable amount of time, there's no reason that a user can't have that application installed on their desktop within a couple of hours comfortably of the time they make that request. It really just depends on what's appropriate in your specific scenario. And that is your brief look at the application approval workflow solution accelerator. That's just a brief overview. If you're looking for in-depth training on any System Center 2012 technology, visit us over at infrontconsulting.com and click on the training link. If you have any questions about my talk here today, feel free to stop by systemcentercentral.com and post a question in one of the forums.